I was scrolling through the photos on my phone when I froze. Every single picture from yesterday's walk showed a figure behind me, blurred, shadowy, always just out of focus. I remembered being alone. My chest tightened as I tapped each image, hoping I was imagining things. The sun had barely risen when I snapped my first photo of the old park. In the background, a silhouette lingered under the twisted oak tree. At first, I thought it was a jogger, but the same figure appeared again in the next shot, closer, impossibly still. My hands shook as I looked around the empty park. No one was there. The bench, the fountain, even the narrow gravel path were deserted. Yet every photo told the same story. I wasn't alone. Something followed me, unseen, silent, but present. I returned home and loaded all my pictures onto the laptop. The figure was clearer in some, like it was studying me. Dark hair, indistinct features, but the posture, it was unnervingly human. I tried to tell myself it was a trick of the light, a coincidence, anything but truth. Then I noticed it in my bedroom window. I hadn't taken a photo there. The reflection in the glass showed the same shadowed figure, standing still, staring at me. My breath hitched. I wanted to look away, but my eyes refused. It smiled, or I imagined it did, and the room felt unbearably cold. I've always loved photography. It started as a hobby in college, a way to quiet my mind. Framing the world through a lens made everything feel controlled, distant, harmless. I captured empty streets, sunrise skies, strangers from afar, never once thinking something might capture me back. Most evenings, I wandered around my neighborhood just before dusk, chasing that soft golden light. The air would cool, the streetlights flicker awake, and the world felt suspended between calm and darkness. It was peaceful, predictable, safe, or at least I believed it was. I live alone in a small apartment on the 3rd floor of an aging building. The pipes groan at night, and the hallway lights hum faintly, but I've grown used to those sounds. Familiar noises become comforting when you hear them long enough. Photography gave me routine. Wake up, edit last night's shots, drink too much coffee, head out again. My social media was slowly gaining traction. People liked my lonely atmosphere aesthetic. Ironic, now that I think about it. They said my photos felt haunted. My friends teased me about always being alone in my pictures. You ever shoot with other people? They'd ask. I'd shrug it off. I preferred solitude. Less unpredictable. Less noise. Just me and whatever the lens decided to see. There was a small park 5 blocks from my apartment that I visited almost daily. It had a cracked fountain, a crooked oak tree, and a rusted swing set that creaked even when the wind was still. It was perfect for moody shots. I never noticed anyone following me before. I was careful, always aware of footsteps, passing cars, shifting shadows. Growing up in the city teaches you that. But nothing ever felt wrong. Nothing lingered longer than it should have. Back home, I'd upload my photos into neat folders labeled by date and location. I zoomed into textures, adjusted shadows, enhanced contrast. I've spent hours studying every pixel before. That's what makes this worse. I would have noticed something unusual. My apartment walls are lined with printed photographs, empty stairwells, fog-covered streets, reflections in puddles. I sometimes caught myself staring at them at night, wondering why they felt heavier than simple paper. But I blamed my imagination. The night before I saw the figure, everything felt normal. I made dinner, watched a mindless show, and edited pictures from the previous week. The building creaked like it always did. Nothing unusual. Nothing lurking in the corners of my vision. I even checked my phone gallery casually before bed, scrolling past dozens of ordinary shots. No shadow, no figure, just trees, pavement, distant clouds. I remember feeling oddly satisfied with the quiet simplicity of it all. If something had been there before yesterday, I swear I would have seen it. I'm meticulous, obsessive even. That's why the thought unsettles me now, because if it wasn't there before, then it must have arrived recently. And I have no idea when it started watching. The first time I truly felt something was wrong wasn't when I saw the photos. It was earlier that afternoon. I had been standing by the fountain, adjusting my lens, when a sudden chill crawled up my spine. The air felt heavier, like someone had stepped too close behind me. I turned quickly, camera still raised. The park was empty. The swing set creaked once, slow and deliberate, though the trees stood perfectly still. I remember staring at it, waiting for the wind to explain it. The wind never came. I shook it off and took another picture, focusing on the cracked stone edge of the fountain. When I lowered the camera, I could have sworn I saw something shift near the oak tree. A darker patch against the trunk, gone the second I blinked. My heart thudded harder than it should have. I stepped closer to the tree, gravel crunching under my shoes. The bark was rough, solid, ordinary. No one hid behind it. But the silence around me felt wrong, thick, expectant. As I lifted the camera again, the autofocus struggled. It kept searching, adjusting, whirring softly like it couldn't lock onto the subject. The frame looked empty to my eyes, yet the lens acted as if something stood dead center. I checked the preview screen. For a split second, just a flicker, I thought I saw a blurred vertical shape in front of me. Too tall to be a shadow, too narrow to be a person. It vanished when the image stabilized. I lowered the camera slowly, pulse pounding in my ears. My own breathing sounded too loud in the stillness. I told myself it was glare, lens distortion, digital noise. Technology glitches all the time. That's what I believed then. As I left the park, I felt watched. Not in the vague, anxious way people sometimes describe, but in a focused, deliberate way, like eyes tracking my movements from just beyond my peripheral vision. Every time I glanced back, the path was empty. Halfway home, I took a quick selfie, mostly as a joke to shake off the unease. I forced a grin, the park stretching behind me. I didn't check the image. I just slipped the phone back into my pocket, eager to get indoors. When I reached my apartment building, the hallway lights flickered as I walked through. They'd done that before, but this time the timing felt intentional, each bulb dimming just as I stepped beneath it. I hurried to my door. Inside, I locked it immediately and leaned against the wood, listening. The building pipes groaned somewhere deep in the walls. My reflection stared back at me from the darkened TV screen. For a second, I thought I saw movement over my shoulder. I spun around. The room was empty, but the sensation didn't fade. It lingered, crawling under my skin like static electricity, whispering a quiet, impossible thought. Something had followed me home. That night, I told myself I was overtired. Too much coffee, too little sleep, an overactive imagination fueled by my own eerie photography. I'd built my life around lonely images. Maybe my brain was finally starting to fill in the gaps. I opened the park photos again, forcing myself to study them calmly. The figure behind me could easily be motion blur. Long exposure, shifting light, compression artifacts. I even Googled examples of camera distortions to prove it to myself. The more I zoomed in, the less clear it became. Pixels broke apart into meaningless squares. There was no defined face, no obvious outline, just suggestion. And suggestion is powerful when you're already afraid. I convinced myself that the selfie would disprove everything. I found it in my gallery and tapped it open, bracing for the worst. For a moment, I felt relief. It looked normal, just me, half smiling, the oak tree behind me. Then I adjusted the brightness. A faint shape appeared over my shoulder, darker than the background. I quickly lowered the brightness again, telling myself it was shadow layering from the tree branches. Trees cast strange shapes all the time. To settle my nerves, I called a friend and casually mentioned seeing weird lighting in my shots. He laughed and said my place was probably haunted by a Victorian ghost who liked photography. I laughed too, louder than necessary. After hanging up, the apartment felt too quiet. I turned on every light, even the bathroom and kitchen ones. The brightness helped. Shadows retreated into corners, reduced to harmless outlines against white walls. I decided to test everything logically. I set my phone on a tripod facing the living room and activated the timer. If something was truly there, it would show up again. My stomach twisted as I stepped into frame. The shutter clicked. I waited for the image to process. When it appeared, it was just me standing awkwardly in my own apartment. No figure, no shadow. Relief flooded through me so quickly my knees felt weak. I took 3 more shots from different angles. Nothing unusual. I even checked reflections in mirrors and windows. Empty. Ordinary. My heartbeat slowly returned to normal, and embarrassment began replacing fear. I told myself I had scared myself with coincidence and suggestion. Humans are wired to see patterns where none exist. It's how we survive. Sometimes, though, it tricks us. That's what this was, a trick. I went to bed repeating that thought like a mantra. It's nothing. It's nothing. As I drifted toward sleep, I almost believed it, until I heard the faint, mechanical sound of a camera shutter clicking from somewhere in the dark. I jolted upright in bed, heart slamming against my ribs. The room was pitch black, my phone resting on the nightstand beside me. I hadn't touched it, yet I would have sworn I heard the unmistakable click of a camera capturing something in the dark. I reached for my phone with trembling fingers. The screen lit up instantly. No notifications, no active apps. My gallery icon glowed innocently. I hesitated, then opened it. A new photo sat at the top of my feed, time-stamped seconds ago. It was a picture of me asleep. The angle was wrong for a tripod. It was taken from the foot of my bed, slightly elevated, as if someone stood there holding the phone. My body lay curled under the blanket, face partially visible in the dim glow of streetlight. Behind me, at the headboard, stood the same blurred figure, closer than ever. My breath came in shallow bursts as I scrambled out of bed and switched on the lights. The room flooded with brightness, exposing empty walls and undisturbed floors. No one stood there. No footprints. No open windows. I checked the door, still locked. The chain was secure. My apartment was exactly as I had left it. But the photo remained, undeniable proof that something had occupied the space where I had been most vulnerable. I deleted the image immediately, hands slick with sweat. The screen flickered once, briefly going black before returning to the gallery. The photo was still there. I tried again. Delete. Confirm. It stayed. Panic began to tighten around my thoughts. I shut off my phone entirely and threw it onto the desk. The apartment felt smaller, the walls pressing inward. Every creak in the pipes sounded deliberate, rhythmic, almost like footsteps pacing. Against my better judgment, I powered the phone back on. The single photo had multiplied. There were now 3 identical shots of me sleeping, each slightly closer than the last. In the newest one, the figure's outline looked sharper, its head tilted unnaturally to one side, as if studying me. I staggered backward until my legs hit the dresser. My reflection in the mirror looked pale and wild-eyed. For a split second, I thought I saw a movement behind me in the reflection, something stepping away from view. I spun around, but the room remained empty. The air felt cold against my bare arms, prickling my skin. I could almost sense breath at the back of my neck, though nothing touched me. The photos continued to appear, one after another, all taken seconds apart. In the latest image, the figure's arm was raised, its hand hovering inches above my sleeping face. And I realized with sick clarity that if the next photo appeared, it wouldn't be of me asleep. It would be of me awake, staring directly into the lens. I stared at the screen, unable to blink. A new image loaded slowly, pixel by pixel. It was me, sitting exactly where I stood now, phone glowing in my hands. My face was pale, eyes wide. The photo had been taken from directly behind me. My throat tightened. I didn't feel anything touch me. No shift of air. No sound of movement. Yet the angle was impossible to fake. Whoever, or whatever, had taken it was standing close enough to feel my body heat. I forced myself to breathe and turned around inch by inch. The room remained empty, but the silence felt alive, as if something had just stepped out of sight. My skin prickled violently, goosebumps racing down my arms. The phone vibrated again. Another photo. This time it wasn't behind me. It was in front of me. A close-up of my face, eyes darting sideways in fear. The perspective was too intimate, too close to human. I dropped the phone as if it had burned me. It hit the floor, screen cracking along one corner. The vibration continued against the hardwood, rattling like frantic knocking. Each buzz meant another image added to the gallery. I couldn't stop myself from picking it up again. The latest photo made my stomach twist. Something dark was pressed against my shoulder, an indistinct shape blending into the shadows, but clearly occupying the same space as my body. I felt nothing physically, but when I looked at my shoulder in real life, I could see the faintest indentation in my shirt fabric, as though weight rested there. Slowly, the fabric shifted deeper, compressing against my skin. My breath stuttered. The indentation moved upward, sliding toward my neck. I staggered forward, trying to shake it off, clawing at empty air. My fingers met nothing, yet the pressure increased. The camera shutter sound echoed again, louder this time, right beside my ear. I felt a rush of cold breath against my cheek. My phone screen lit up with another image before I even looked at it. In the photo, the figure's face was inches from mine. No clear features, just a pale oval blur where eyes and mouth should be. But its proximity was undeniable. Its head leaned toward my ear as if whispering. I felt lips brush my skin. I screamed and stumbled backward, slamming into the wall. The pressure vanished instantly. My shoulder felt light again, my neck free. But the phone displayed one final image, my face contorted mid-scream, and behind me, the figure's mouth stretched into something resembling a smile. And this time, it wasn't blurred. I ran out of my apartment barefoot, phone clutched in my shaking hand. The hallway lights flickered violently as I burst through the door, my scream echoing off the narrow walls. I didn't care who heard me. I just needed to be away from that room. I pounded on my neighbor's door across the hall, begging for someone to answer. The silence felt unnatural, stretched thin like something holding its breath. No footsteps approached. No voice responded. Just that faint electric hum overhead. My phone vibrated again. I didn't want to look, but I did. The newest photo showed me in the hallway, frozen mid-knock. The shot was taken from inside my apartment doorway, as if someone stood there watching me flee. I turned slowly toward my open door. It was dark inside, lights somehow off again. I knew I'd left them blazing. The doorway looked deeper than it should have, like the darkness extended far beyond my small living room. The elevator dinged at the far end of the corridor. I nearly sobbed in relief and ran toward it. The doors slid open, revealing an empty car bathed in harsh fluorescent light. I stepped inside, hammering the button for the lobby. As the doors began to close, I glanced at the reflective steel walls. My reflection stared back, alone. For half a second, I felt safe. Then the elevator camera above flickered red, and I heard the faint shutter click again. The phone buzzed in my hand. The photo showed the inside of the elevator. Me standing there. And directly behind me, inches from my back, the figure, taller now, its head nearly brushing the ceiling. I spun around wildly. The elevator was empty. I pressed myself into the corner, eyes darting everywhere at once. The air felt thinner, harder to breathe. My pulse pounded so loudly it drowned out the hum of the cables. The elevator lurched violently and stopped between floors. The lights flickered, plunging me into brief darkness before snapping back on. I felt something brush against my calf, light, deliberate. Another photo appeared, this one taken from the floor, angled upward. My face twisted in panic. Behind me, the figure crouched low, its elongated limbs bent at unnatural angles, its blurred face inches from my leg. I screamed until my throat burned, slamming the emergency button over and over. No response, no operator's voice, just the mechanical whir of the phone capturing another image. The final photo in the sequence made my blood turn cold. It showed the elevator from above, as if viewed from the ceiling corner. I stood alone in the center, but the shadow beneath me wasn't mine. It spread outward, tall and distorted, reaching up toward my shoulders like waiting arms. And I could feel those arms beginning to close around me. The lights went out completely. Total darkness swallowed the elevator, thick and suffocating. I felt something solid press against my back, cold, towering, unmistakably present. My phone screen was the only light left, glowing faintly in my trembling hand. Another photo appeared, but this time it wasn't from the elevator camera. It wasn't from my phone either. The image quality was different, grainier, wider, as if taken from somewhere else entirely. It showed the elevator from outside. The doors were closed. The floor indicator read the level I'd started on. According to the timestamp, the photo had been taken right now. Yet in the image, the elevator doors never opened. I had never entered. My heart stuttered. The next image loaded automatically. It showed the hallway outside my apartment. The timestamp matched the moment I'd run out screaming. The corridor was empty. My door remained closed. There was no me. My breathing grew ragged as realization clawed its way into my mind. Every photo tonight, every angle, every perspective had shown me from outside myself, from a place I could never physically occupy. The final image appeared without vibration, without sound. It was a photo of my bedroom from earlier that evening. I stood at the window, staring at my reflection. But in this image, the reflection was clear, and it wasn't me. It was the figure, and I was the blurred shape behind it. The elevator lights snapped back on with a violent hum. I was alone. No pressure against my back. No arms around me. The doors slid open smoothly onto the lobby as if nothing had happened. I stumbled outside, legs weak, vision swimming. The night guard sat at his desk scrolling on his phone. He glanced up briefly, unimpressed. "You okay?" he asked. His tone was casual, almost bored. I tried to explain, words tangling together. Elevator. Photos. Someone behind me. He frowned and checked the security monitors. The elevator feed showed nothing unusual, just me standing alone, pacing nervously. "There's nobody else in there," he said firmly. "You walked in by yourself." My stomach dropped. "Check earlier," I insisted. "The hallway. My apartment floor." He rewound the footage. The screen displayed the corridor outside my apartment. The timestamp matched the moment I'd been pounding on my neighbor's door. But the hallway was empty. No one ran out. No one knocked. I felt my knees buckle and gripped the desk to stay upright. "That's impossible," I whispered. I remembered the cold floor under my feet, the flickering lights. I remembered screaming. The guard stared at me cautiously now. "Maybe you had a bad dream." I looked down at my phone, desperate for proof. The gallery was empty. Every image from the night, gone. Even the older park photos had vanished. The folders were blank, as if I'd never taken a single picture. My reflection glimmered faintly on the dark screen. For a moment, I thought I saw the blur again behind my shoulder. I whipped around. The lobby was still. The guard watched me with thinly veiled concern. I left the building and didn't stop walking until sunrise painted the sky pale gray. I didn't go back to my apartment. I couldn't. Every reflective surface felt like a trap waiting to expose something standing too close. I deleted my photography accounts the next day, packed my camera into a box, and sealed it shut. I told myself I was done chasing lonely images, done searching for shadows. But sometimes, when I pass by shop windows or catch my reflection in a car mirror, I hesitate. The reflection always seems slightly delayed, like it's considering whether to mimic me. And every once in a while, when I glance quickly at my phone screen before it lights up fully, I see a faint silhouette standing where my reflection should be, perfectly still, patiently waiting for the next photo.